if you knew you were enough? What would your life look like? What would love look like? This is the Enough Factor broadcast, where we're redefining what makes you enough in life and in love. Now here's your host, Suzette Virnon. Hello everybody, it's your life coach and relationship solutionist, Suzette Virnon, and welcome to the Enough Factor podcast. As always, I am so happy that you decided to tune in today. And if this is your first time, you'll find that this podcast deep dives into the underbelly of enoughness, helping you to redefine what makes you enough on your own terms. And with this podcast and everything that I do, my intention is to amplify what I've found to be 3 critical factors of enoughness: your voice, your value, and your vision. If I can do that, you'll have a more heart-connected, meaningful experience of life and love. In today's episode, I'm reaching back to 2013. Yes, 8 years ago, to a conversation I had with coaches Stephanie McKenzie and Stephan Labossiere regarding relationships. I had a live and lively blog talk radio segment called Ordinary is the New Extraordinary. And these phenomenal coaches, whom I had only met over the telephone, said yes to being my special guest. And rounding out my relationship series, these coaches did not disappoint. Because you see, I wanted to talk about male and female perspectives when it came to relationships, struggles, misconceptions, and missteps. And who better than to bring on a male relationship coach and a female relationship coach, right? And boy, did they bring it. And that's why I'm featuring our conversation on today's podcast episode. And I'm calling it The Truth About Relationships. Now, a couple of things. I want you to remember that this is from 8 years ago. So there are aspects of it that have evolved considerably. And to be quite honest, the audio quality is not as pristine as I would like it to be. But the message, y'all, the message is just as relevant today as it was 8 years ago. So let's jump in. My conversation with Stephanie McKenzie and Stephan Labossiere.
It is Sunday, September 29th, and I greet you from the beautiful Great Smoky Mountains of Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Thank you for joining us for our live show. I count it a privilege and honor that you have taken time out of your busy schedules to tune in to tonight's show. If you have a second phone or you have your computer nearby, contact your friends and family and tell them to dial in right now. They don't want to miss this show. For the entire month of September, we've talked about healthy relationships. Tonight, we'll be ending the month with a bang. Please post your comments and questions throughout the show. If something tonight's guest says prompts a question, post it, okay? What a month we have had. A quick recap. We've had couples who have kept the spice in their relationship for 24 years. We've had a committed dating couple who told me they don't fight for their position, but they will fight tooth and nail to get on the same page, to understand one another. That was one that even I was like, oh, my God. It was even more extraordinary because they are in their 20s with that kind of wisdom. I was like, oh, my God, I need to come and talk to you. And then there was another couple we had. Lines were crossed and there was infidelity. But this couple shared their story from betrayal to forgiveness and redemption. That was a powerful, powerful episode. And who said you can't find love after age 40? My guest just last week defied the odds and found true love in their 40s. I want to give a collective shout out and a thank you to all of them. I wish to thank Dinah Pittman of the Fit Squad, a creative management and styling company. She has so graciously agreed to help man the studio tonight. I also want to acknowledge the relationship firm of What the Love Company for their support. The relationship firm is dedicated to helping each client to create authentic relationships that are undeniably positive and unequivocally productive in every area of their lives. Last but not least, Bonnie Kay. Without her, I would not be hosting this show. So, to tonight, we are leveling the playing field a bit. We've brought together two relationship professionals to give the male and the female perspective on relationships. Let me tell you about this dynamic duo. They are a part of the team of professionals at the relationship firm. My first guest, award-winning marketeer, college educator, certified coach, author of 3 books, The Business of Dating, The Book of Bye, like in Goodbye, 12 Little Things That Might Be Reasons to End It, but that you probably never thought were a big deal. No, I needed that book a few years ago. And 11 plus things every college student should know about dating, relationships, and other college stuff. She's an agent of ridiculously undeniable, life-altering change. She is none other than Stephanie D. McKenzie, a.k.a. Coach Steph. She hails from Houston, Texas, and brings more than 2 decades of business and marketing expertise to crafting strategies that make your relationships work for you. This means no more one-sided, you give, they take, don't call me a doormat, but I am just that. Wish they would understand what I need, relationships for you. I had the pleasure to talk with her a couple of weeks back, and there was an instant connection. By the end of the talk, I told her we should have recorded it. It was so rich. She is passionate about relationships. Whatever your garden variety, Steph is the relationship fixer. But hold that applause. We have a second guest, because everybody knows there are 2 sides to every relationship story. Stephan Labossiere is the relationship guy. Hailing from the ATL, he makes no apologies for his straightforwardness. He don't play, y'all. He's a man on a mission, and that mission is to make relationships happier and more fulfilling. As a certified relationship coach, speaker, and author, whose latest book is God, Where Is My Boaz?, Stephan seizes every opportunity to help both males and females overcome the challenges that hinder their relationship. From understanding the opposite sex, to navigating the paths and avoiding the pitfalls, to achieve an authentically amazing life, Stephan empowers millions to take charge of their situations and to make changes to their lives and love lives on a daily basis. So if you can, put your cyber hands together and give me a round of applause for our 2 relationship experts tonight. Hi, Stephanie.
Hello, Suzette. How are you?
Fantastic. Hi, Stephan.
How you doing, Suzette?
Doing wonderful. Thank you so much, both of you, for agreeing to close out September with such a compelling show. We had couples in the beginning, but I didn't want to just leave it at that. I said there's some singles and some marrieds and some it's complicated and some blurred lines out there, and we want to be able to empower them also to have fulfilling relationships. So I thank you so much for being a part of tonight's show. I always want to know what is their backstory. So I'm going to ask Stephanie to go first and then you, Stephan, and let me know what is fueling your passion for relationships.
and as I sit here trying to get my lines together, people always ask me how long I've been doing this, and I usually tell them all my life, because I have been involved in somebody's relationship, counseling them, encouraging them, helping them work through the grief process, all of that since probably about the age of 10. And I know, but, really what inspires me to do what I do is that, it presented itself as another way to help people. As you read so eloquently, I do have a background in marketing and business, and so I have to shout out my students that I teach here in Houston as well, because they're the reason for the business of dating. I actually had a 10-year relationship that started in college, worst time of my life. Hope he's not listening, but shout out anyway. And so, my reality was that this started in college. So now that I'm on a college campus, I started integrating my lessons about SWOT analyses and ADA and the 4 Ps with information about how to make better relationship choices. And so, a myriad of things came about. The story is long, but at any rate, I do this because I want to help people. I believe in people having healthy relationships, being happy in relationships. And I think it's just really about having someone that can tell you and encourage you to make that happen in your life. And so I'm volunteering to be that person.
And Stephan?
Well, for me, pretty much kind of similar to Stephanie. Even since I was a little kid, people always came to me for advice and for counsel and would reveal to me some of the deepest, darkest secrets. And this could happen in one day, the first day I ever met them. So it was always something that made people feel comfortable opening up to me. But ultimately, as I got older, it just boiled down to me getting closer to God and realizing this is my purpose. There are a lot of hurt, damaged people out there that need assistance, and they don't have anyone to talk to. And they don't even have anyone giving them guidance in a very non-judgmental or non-condescending manner. So I think that my position is to help them along, give them clarity, and just see people in happier and healthier relationships. I think relationships are the backbone to society. If we can get that more on track, we can fix a lot of issues. So I think that that's where the focus needs to be on, but I think a lot of times we get distracted by everything that the world throws at us. But that's pretty much why I'm in this business, because I just know this is what I'm supposed to do, and it's needed. And the more we can help people find healing, the more we can help people move in a better direction.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to just jump right in with both feet because I know there are some common relationship questions that I'm sure that you all deal with all the time. If you could tell me, and either one of you, I tend to go ladies first, Stephan, just because I'm a Southern girl, but
that's perfectly fine.
Great. What are the most common relationship questions or / issues that you both deal with?
Well, the great thing about ladies first is that I can always defer, because I know that there's some woman out there that just wants to hear Stephan talk because now they're really excited. So I will let you go first, my esteemed colleague.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, some of the common questions is how to get over heartbreak or how to move on. That's like something a lot of people struggle with. And they know they need to walk away, but they're just having a hard time putting it into play. I think also, how do you know if someone's really interested in you? That's another one that always gets asked. People are trying to analyze, is this person serious about me? Are they just trying to play me? What's really going on here?
Right.
And then other than that, I think just how to talk to somebody, like how to properly communicate. That's another thing that people just struggle with. They don't know how to properly express themselves and get on the same page as their partner. So I think those are the 3 ones that probably, for the most part, come up with the clients I've come across.
Yeah, those are some good ones. Those really are. I didn't even send those to y'all in the sample questions. Shame on me.
We wanted to be fresh for you, Suzette. This is fresh right here.
Yes, sir, it's fresh. And you, Stephanie?
Well, I can relate to the same questions that Stephan has said, except I get these very detailed, and I don't know if you get this too, Stephan. I used to anyway, get these very detailed DMs that would come through Twitter, and they would be everything from, I'm with a guy, but he lives with his child's mother. What should I do? He says he loves me. And it's all this convoluted, and I'm like, at the end of the day, if it's not making you better, if it's not enhancing your life, if you don't see a future in it, then you're just asking the question for somebody else to tell you. You're seeking permission. But one of the other questions I get, especially because I deal with a lot of women, sometimes over the age of 40, maybe into their 50s, and many of them would ask me the question, I don't know why I'm single. And I hate to say this, but I would look at them up and down and just say, well, okay, because they would look so worn out. They would have this face of bitterness and just upset about everything. And I'm like, well, there's your answer. So it's a lot of that, especially with the older women that I would encounter. And then with guys, they're always asking the question of, well, where can I find a good woman? And I'm like, okay, where are you looking would be my response to that. But, I definitely get all the ones that Stephan said. And more than likely there's a few more that we didn't say. But, yeah, we always get a ton of questions. And it's usually somebody, if I had to narrow it down, it's usually somebody, like Stephan said, who needs to not walk away but run. But for some reason want somebody, like myself or Stephan to either tell them that or not tell them that.
And it's interesting that you said that guys will say, where can I find a good woman? I think this is a good step into another question. Because I've heard, talk shows and, you talk to your girlfriends. Stephan, I know you probably talk to your guy friends. And people will tell you different stories of what's going on in their relationships and why it's not, meeting their needs. And they'll always interject, but he's a good man, or but she's a good woman. And I'm thinking we might need to kind of adjust our definition of good. What please define, and Stephan, if you can define for sisters the attributes of a good man, and Stephanie, same question, if you can define attributes of a good woman so that we are clear and don't stay in relationships that really are not serving a good purpose because but he's a good man or she's a good woman. Can you address that for me?
You want me to go first?
You want me to go first?
I'll go ahead. I'll start off. For the qualities of a good man, I would say that he's willing to handle business, number one. I think a lot of women are latching on to men who have not shown an ability to even take care of themselves yet, and they get frustrated when that man can't handle things, even some of the simplest tasks. So, yeah, he may be a good guy as far as he may be a nice guy, but if he doesn't know how to handle business and take charge in some situations, then you're not going to be happy in that relationship. I think also him showing that he's willing to communicate. He may struggle to communicate. He may not know how to properly communicate with you, but if he shows a willingness to, then that's a good thing. Then you're working with something here. I think also a man who knows how to try to make you smile, who brings joy into your life and not negativity, who respects you. Respect is a huge deal, because you can have a man's attention, but if you don't have his respect, you have nothing. So I think that those things are very important. If you are a spiritual person, then I think, of course, go ahead.
I was telling Donna, that's a tweet.
Yeah. And, if you're a spiritual person, then, of course, it's important that he has a relationship with God as well. You don't want to be on two different pages when it comes to the spiritual aspect, or there's going to probably be problems in the relationship as well. So I think those things are probably the most important traits to look for. And of course, I think we don't talk about it enough, but I think it should be said. There needs to be some attraction. I don't think a woman or man should have to date somebody that they're not attracted to. Now, the attraction does not mean he fits what society thinks looks good. It does not mean he has a six-pack or whatever some people might think qualifies as attractive. It's all that matters that you find yourself attracted to that individual. And if that's there and you guys can communicate and you guys can have a foundation of friendship, you're good to go. Or you got something to work with.
Stephanie, what you got to say?
Well, see, now that Stephan has given the sermon, I honestly have to say that with my clients, the good guy and the good girl are a myth. People that classify themselves as good or nice, that just simply makes them generic. And so what I encourage them to do, there's this a theory, there's a marketing theory called the USP, Unique Selling Proposition. And so in the business of dating, I take them through breaking down the things that make them unique. Because just like Stephan was saying, when people start saying, oh, well, I'm good, that's nice. But as we all know, there must be some sort of a disconnect because all the good women who are single and all the good men who are single are not together. So in just breaking down the goodness of it all, are you good or are you an amazing Christian woman who makes an awesome vegan cupcake and you got the most amazing natural ever seen on the earth? That's different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so in that, I think that also gives us the chance to know if we're with somebody that actually meets, like you said, our expectations, our standards, because they go beyond all of this generic. Just because somebody is good doesn't mean that they're good for you.
Mm-hmm.
So,
indeed. So now, what is the difference between a preference and a standard? Because I hear a lot of people say, I got standards. I want them to be taller than me. I got standards. I want him to have a job. I got standards. He need to make at least as much as I make, if not more. I got standards. But
did I tell you all of that? I feel like I just got thrown under the bus, but that sounds a wee bit like my list. Suzette, did you just throw me under the bus?
No, I didn't mean to,
she's like, no, I'm kidding. But, I mean, for me, and I don't know, Stephan, you may say differently. For me, a preference is something that you would like. It's not a requirement. And a standard is what you require. Although it seems, and I'm sure Stephan can attest to this, the people who seem to have the loudest standards, like, oh, I'll never date a man who doesn't have a job, they're always the ones that end up with a man who doesn't have a job. And so I have a tendency to make people look more at deal breakers. And, I will throw myself under the bus and probably get all of your listeners all riled up when I say my deal breaker is a man that has children. I do not date them. It is non-negotiable. I won't do it. And so people have said everything to me that, you're going to limit your options. I don't need options. Okay, I'm a woman of faith. I know that God, has what he has for me. But it's not something that I want to deal with. It's not, I don't have children. I'm not bringing that to the table. So deal breakers, I think, takes it up another notch to make people say, okay, this is what I absolutely will not deal with. But that should be the standard. But like I said, people tend to be, especially women, tend to be a little bit flexible when it comes to the standards, depending on what they're getting out of the deal. But that's just my 2 cents. Stephan?
Well, okay. I think
dig me out of this hole that I just made. Dig me out.
I think people vary on how they view standards and preferences. To me, what comes to mind is Standards is about how the person treats you or what they're giving to you. Preferences is kind of like what you're looking for in them, meaning my preference is 5, whatever, she looks this way, she dresses this way, she drives this. Preferences. Standards is she has to treat me like this, she has to do for me like this. Do you see what I'm saying? It's about how what she's giving to me is kind of the standard. She has to give me a certain level of quality to meet my standard, where preferences are very specific requirements I look for in that person to have in order for me to even entertain the relationship.
One of the complaints that I'm hearing more and more is it seems like women who are, I want to say 40s, 50s, but it might even be late 30s, those that have achieved a lot, you know, they have various degrees, they have moved up the corporate ladder, that type of thing, that their preferences are becoming such a laundry list of things that the man has got to have that he would almost need to be a second Jesus in order for them to think he's good enough, and they even wouldn't think Jesus is good enough for them. And I'm just wondering, you know, have you all run into that where there's such a laundry list of preferences that it's almost like, my God, does God have to custom make this man blow breath into him and sit him, you know, in front of you?
Well, you know, I'm going to say this. I'm going to jump in first. I can't remember who it was that said to me. I want to shout them out. But the bottom line is I remember doing an event, and the person mentioned that rules are for people you don't like. All right? And basically what they're saying is a lot of times these women who have these strict preferences is because two things are happening. Either the men they're dealing with they really don't like anyway, so they're being very strict about what they're looking for, or it's all a defense mechanism. There's a deeper-rooted fear going on. Pickiness sometimes is a result of fear. We just don't look at it that way a lot of times, but that's what's happening. It's like if that woman who's successful once dated a broke man and he broke her heart, so in her mind, I will never go for a broke man again. So now it's viewed as, oh, she's so picky. No, she's so scared is what's really going on. You see, so I think there's a deeper issue that has to be addressed. But again, I will say that some of the pickiness in many cases is simply because they just don't really like that guy. Because when you really like that person, man or woman, you start to bend the rules a little bit. You start to allow certain things not to be on the list, and you still take them. But if you're not really into them, they've got to hit everything on the list or they're out the door.
Well, let me ask you, because I know and the other side of that, too, is there are women who are successful and they haven't had great success in relationships, and they'll date somebody that they're really not attracted to, but they're like, but you know, I'm trying to be more open. I'm trying not to be as picky, and it's almost like going to the other extreme. And usually, the person that they're dating is talking relationship, but they're not walking it. They're talking is suggesting, I want to be exclusive, I want to be these things. But then when he says he's going to be somewhere, he doesn't show up, or he doesn't show up on time. That mixed message kind of thing. What have you had any situations like that, Stephanie or Stephan?
I got a response, but I want to let Stephanie go first. Steph, you got something to say first?
Stephanie has left the building.
All right, well, look, let me say this. This is going to sound a little harsh, but I'm just trying to be honest. If you as a woman have dated a certain kind of guys and you feel like it hasn't worked, you feel like now you have to settle for less to make it work and it's still not working, then guess who the common denominator is? You. The reality is they're thinking it's the caliber of men or the type of men they're going after that's the problem. No, it's you. There's something that woman's doing. There's something that she's overlooking. There's something that she is not being mindful of that is hindering her ability to get the relationship she deserves. But rather than accept that responsibility and look at herself in the mirror, she's trying to explain it with every outside reason possible. The men, city I'm in, my job, my success. It's you. And that's not to insult these women. It's not to make them feel bad, but we have to understand that we have a power to make changes in our lives. And a lot of these women, if they would be willing to do some reflection and accept something that they're doing, some of the behavior that they're exhibiting that's pushing things in the wrong direction, then they could get things moving in the right direction. That is my answer.
So, Stephanie, one of the things that you said, too, was people want to know, it may have been both of you or one of you, you were saying some of the women over age 40 and 50, which are beginning to comprise a great deal of the dating pool now.
Absolutely.
They don't know why they're single. How do you coach or how do you address a woman who comes to you with that problem? What is it that you have to deal with first?
Oh, well, okay. And can you hear me now?
Okay, I can hear you very well.
Okay, good. I had technical difficulties, so I dropped off and came back. Well, the thing of it is that a lot of women who are older, it's just like Stephan was saying, they've had these defeating behaviors, or they bring to the table some bag of bitterness that, they need to deal with. And I'm not saying that they're all bitter. I'm saying that once you reach a particular stage in life, that you're bringing things to the table that need to be addressed. If your marriage failed, you need to figure out why it failed and stop saying, well, my husband was selfish. Until, I have a rule. I can't deal with or coach a divorcee unless they can articulate with fairness and equity how and why their marriage failed. And so that being said, if you're still saying, oh, it was my husband, oh, it was my wife, then to me you have not accepted the culpability that you have for the marriage failing. So with those individuals, we have to really start looking at the track record, looking at their resume. Why did the marriage fail? Why are you single at this point? What's been happening in your dating life? Because until, like Stephan said, until they're willing to admit what they are doing, it's not the job, it's not the type of men, it's not because you didn't wear Chanel No. 5 on Thursday, it's not any of these things, it's me. There's something that is not well or whole or healthy inside of me. And so it's like cancer. We almost have to do a wee bit of surgery here to dig that out. And so my advice for them is to start looking at how we got to this point. Before we can go any further, we got to figure out everything that contributed to us getting to this point. And now that we're here, what is it that we want, and what is it that we want to contribute to the world?
It's like you have to do a CSI investigation. And
pretty much.
You can't just be like you said, what he did or what she did, but what did you contribute? What was your role? Because even if you were passive, that still was a contribution. It would either contribute or contaminate the relationship, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And that's what a lot of people do not want to do. They don't want to say. And Stephan, you know this. People don't want to say, you know what, I messed up. I did this. I didn't say that. Now, I did have one male client who said, I was the main cause for my marriage's demise. I didn't know how to communicate. I mean, he was willing to ante up and to pony up, the things that he did that caused his marriage to fail. But that's very rare. Wow. I mean, most people don't even want to say, I'm sorry. So how are we going to get into decades of culpability on the relationship front?
So true, so true. Well, I want to give, I'm sure there are questions for the two of you, and so I want to open up the lines to give people a chance to ask the specific questions or to give you both a shout out, to let just to say hello or whatever. Dinah, I defer to you because Dinah is helping so much, and I'm so grateful for it. To see if there's anybody who is waiting to ask a question or to give a comment. And let me interject before I before Dinah answers. If you have a question or comment, please press the number 1 on your telephone keypad. And as I've been advising everyone throughout this month, please don't wait till the last 90 seconds of the program to ask your burning question, because Blog Talk Radio will cut us off at 9:30, even in the middle of your wonderful explanation. So if you have a question or have a comment, please go on and start firing them up, and we'll try to get as many as we can. So, Dinah, do we have anyone with a question at this particular point?
We don't have anyone yet.
Oh, okay. Well,
Stephan scared him away. They got scared when he started. You know, it's so funny because, you know, in the practice just recently we have a client that we shared, and every time I call him, I always say, you know what, I need you to do that slice and dice thing that you do, because he will slice and dice you up really nice. You'll be very Julianne. It'll be very cute, but he'll just slice and dice you real nicely. And it's necessary. It's not mean. It's not malicious, you know, but it's necessary so we can get that cancer out. So, you know, we should start calling you Dr. Labossiere.
And I continue to tell you that people need to hear the truth, because folks,
absolutely,
let's face it, girlfriends talk, and if we ask our girlfriends a question about a guy, their answer 9 times out of 10 is the wrong one, and they'll keep us tied to that joker. And say, cut him loose.
We do have a caller who wants to ask a question.
Oh, okay.
And they just dropped off, so never mind.
Must have been my fault that time.
They'll be back. You know, they always come back. They'll be back.
Yes, they do. So what do you all have to say about women asking their women friends about men, and men asking their men friends about women?
Ooh, I want to go first. Can I go first this time?
Go ahead. Take it away.
Thank you, Stephan. Okay, so here's my issue. And I have this issue with single women. I have this issue with married women. Because when you go to your girlfriend, she's going to give you advice based on her experience. So if you're sleeping with a married guy and she slept with a married guy before and it turned out great, she's going to tell you to hang in there.
True.
You know, like, oh, girl, it'll be fine. You know, same thing with married people. And I you know, I stay on the married people because I always say, just because you're married does not mean you know how to be. And married people seem to think they have some little cult, you know. And I'm like, just because someone is married and like a married woman goes to a married woman and asks her for advice, that doesn't mean that advice is going to be based on the tenets of marriage that you have, nor is it going to be based on the biblical principles that will allow your marriage to survive. It doesn't mean that she understands being married. So if you go to her with an issue, and let's say you found a number in your husband's jacket, and maybe her husband cheated on her, she's going to say to you, well, girl, if I were you. And at that moment, you are not getting an unbiased piece of advice. You're getting a very tainted piece of information based on what they've already gone through. And so I tell everybody, this is why coaching becomes important. I'm going to do my PSA for coaching. This is why coaching and therapy and everything else becomes important, because it should be able to offer you an unbiased party to help you come up with solutions that work for you. Girlfriends and homeboys, as Stephan will tell you in just a minute, cannot do that for you.
Oh, my God. Before Stephan jumps in, Lord Dinah, it's another tweet. Just because a person is married doesn't mean that they know how to be. Oh, my God, that was good. Okay.
Thank you, Suzette. Thank you.
I mean, Stephanie pretty much summed it up. I was going to pretty much say the same things. I think it's very risky to get advice, women getting advice from women, and even men getting advice from men. I think it is a lot of times very biased. And it's hard for people to remove their emotions out of the situation. People internalize your problem and give it as if they were, give it as if it was them, but they don't realize they have to put themselves in your shoes. It's your perspective. It's a different situation with you. It's not the same as their situation. So I think it's very risky. I mean, some friends and family are giving sound and genuine advice, but you really have to be mindful of who you're talking to. And like Steffi said, being married does not qualify you as giving advice. If that was the case, then all these married people would be able to give great advice. And most of them can't give themselves advice.
Exactly.
So that doesn't mean anything, And shoot, let's look at it this way. Almost a lot of you have been in relationships and still have no clue how to deal with a relationship. So that didn't make any difference either. So I think it is very smart for people to get third-party advice, to get unbiased, outside opinions on a situation, because that person has no vested interest in your situation. They only will tell you what they truly believe or what they think is truly best for you. So I think people just have to be careful with it and just know who you're talking to and know if they're talking to you from the right place. And if you're a spiritual person, don't just listen to what someone says. Take a moment and go pray and verify if God is okay with the advice you were just given.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't do that, then it's pointless. You might be led astray by who knows who.
Absolutely. And that's the truth. I mean, that's the biggest thing right there with anything is that, that you pray and let the Lord be the ultimate judge. And if you don't believe in the Lord, well, that's a whole different show. But, I mean, you have to get to the point where you're listening to wisdom, not just knowledge, but actual wisdom. And, it's so funny because this is at the point where people ask, oh, do you have a relationship? I'm single because I'm not a hypocrite and I practice what I preach. And so I'm not going to be in a relationship that's unfulfilling for the sake of being able to say I'm in a relationship, yay, follow me. And additionally, the married people say, well, you've never been married. Well, and then what I say to that is, neither have you.
Wow.
So we're actually all on equal footing at that point.
And it's interesting because when you were talking about married people and getting advice from them, I was married twice. To the same man, but twice. But when when we divorced, I realized I didn't know anything more about men than I knew going in. I really didn't know as far as how men think and how they process and how to know if it's a good man, how to know if it's a healthy relationship, what are the signs if it's toxic. I didn't know anything, and so I went to a relationship coach later because just because a person gets married doesn't mean that they really know all things married. Doesn't mean that they know everything there is to know about men or everything there is to know about women. All they know is their experience. So very true. So very true. So how do you know if a relationship is toxic? What are the because I think a lot of times, even in the dating world, people don't know. They end up wasting their time instead of saying next. They wasting their time trying to fix somebody who don't want to be fixed and that you can't fix. So how do they kind of know? What some questions that they can ask when they go out with a person? Some questions they can ask that will let them know what that person's about pretty early in the game.
Well, let me say this, all right, to be quite honest with you. Women know. Women almost always know, all right? Their intuition, something, they see a sign, somehow they catch on that this guy is probably not the guy they should be dealing with, but they will rationalize their intuition. They will convince themselves of all the reasons why they should continue. And even when they know it's toxic, they will claim love is why they hold on, but it's fear why they can't walk away. All right? So people don't really need help in understanding, or at least women, they don't need help in understanding when it's toxic and bad. They need help in learning how to let go, how not to convince themselves to entertain a man who is not best for them, how not to let their loneliness get the best of them. Or their family and friends who are telling them, well, why aren't you married yet? What are you waiting for? What's wrong with you? Don't let them people pressure you into embracing some man you know you're not truly in love with and who's not best for you. Those are real issues. You know what I'm saying? Because women are very smart, very intuitive. Now, actually, I was just saying on Facebook the other day how men are more likely to get suckered into a bad relationship because we're not as in tune, okay? And we're not as detail-oriented. We're just focused on the surface. So if we get a woman who knows how to hide some of that baggage and who's cooking or doing whatever that man may like, he may actually think, oh, all is good. And then by the time they're married, he gets hit upside his head and don't know where it came from, doesn't know what just hit him. You know, so I think that, but with men, what they have to learn is they have to dig deeper. And with them, the question has got to be just ask questions in general. Just talk to her. Get to learn her. You know, if you sense the woman has deeper issues, explore that. Just don't say, I'm just going to leave it alone because I don't want to bother with it, because that same issue is going to come back to haunt both of you.
Absolutely.
You know, so I think that's what needs to happen. But again, I think even with men, though, when it gets toxic, when it gets bad, people know it is. They just struggle with walking away from it because they're scared, they're too comfortable, it's easier to hold on to the situation, but they're not in some kind of delusion and think that it's not bad. They'll just claim good because they want you to back off, and he wants you to leave them alone. So if they tell you, oh, all is good, oh, I love them, you can't really say nothing. But if they said to you, man, I know this is a bad relationship, well, then they know you're going to hit them with, well, then it's time to leave.
Stephan, I was hearing you going,
You know, it's like church. You know, you have to be the amen corner. Heck, I'm like, I have nothing really to say but to co-sign on that, because, I mean, Stephan hit the nail on the head when he said that women rationalize, you know, and many times, especially if you're successful, if you're an affluent woman, it's like, yeah, you're judging, oh, you should lower your standards, and you'll have people in your life that'll co-sign, you know, oh, he doesn't have to have a degree, but, I mean, sometimes these are things that you need, and at the end of the day, a great relationship is about finding a common life rhythm. And I didn't make up life rhythm. I borrowed it from a pastor in South Carolina. And he said life rhythms, and I said that's a good phrase because, again, you could be a really great girl, you could be a really great guy, and you get together and it doesn't work because your life rhythms are off. You know, maybe he's not as ambitious. Maybe she's not as ambitious. You know, it's all of these things, but you see them, like Stephan said, the intuition kicks in, you're like, But then you've got, you know, your wonderful girlfriend over here whom you always ask for advice telling you, give him a chance. Don't be so inflexible. He could be the best thing for you. And so all of this stuff starts to run into your mind, and instead of going with your first mind that is usually true to you, you start listening and entertaining the voices. And anytime you start entertaining the voices in your head, you're setting yourself up for failure. If at least not failure, a really big problem.
So, question, are men intimidated by strong women?
Hey,
is that rhetorical?
Can I interject?
Well, let me say this. I'm gonna say this really quickly, and I'm gonna let Stephan do that thing he does. Men are not intimidated by anything. Males are intimidated by strong women. That's all I have to say on the matter.
Oh,
we have a caller. We do have a caller.
And now there's a caller.
Okay, go ahead. Take the caller.
Okay, the last four digits is 2611.
Hello, caller.
Hello, how are you doing?
Fine, how are you?
Doing great. I'm enjoying the conversation. It's really rich.
Fantastic.
Funny question, though, is how do you then connect with that person with the life rhythm when you're given a myriad of things now, online, several different tips people give you for connecting with people. What is your advice for connecting with that person with the rhythm that is complementary to you?
Okay. I'm hearing echo. Are you on speaker by chance?
Hold on just a minute. Let me do this.
Yeah.
I'm acting like this is my show. I'm sorry, Suzette. I'm like, I hear echo.
Is that better? Okay.
Yeah.
That's much better.
Yeah.
Did you need me to repeat it? Or okay. So
no, I think I heard it. I heard it fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess since I brought up the life rhythms concept. Now, based on what I heard, you said, how do you connect with the person that you think you might have a great life rhythm with? Did I get it right?
Well, not think, but just looking for, wanting to connect with a person that is complementary to you. Where do you go? How do you do that?
Well, that becomes, now people always say, where do you go? Now, I'm a huge proponent for online dating. However, what I always caveat that with is that you have to be very aware of what you're doing and that you are dating online, and you have to scrutinize things as you would in real life, because that's just the nature of the beast. But ultimately, this is about looking at what you want. Like, do you know your own life rhythm? Like, everything from, are you ready to get married, to do you go to bed at 10, or do you go to bed with the TV on? I mean, because all of these things will affect your relationship. And so understanding the breadth of who you are and who you bring to the table, the who meaning you, that you bring to the table is imperative. And so in order to figure out if someone has the same life rhythm, the first thing I'll tell you is use my 5-minute dating rule, which simply it allows you to ask questions to find out if you guys are on the same page. Most people, from what I've encountered, professionally, they didn't start out on the same page. And so 5-minute dating, there's 3 categories: carnal, communal, and committal. I won't get into all of it because it's in the book. Okay, great. But that being said, shameless plug, but it's in the book. But that being said, and it's too long, I don't want to take up all the time because I need Stephan to bring out the thing. Okay, so that being said, finding out if somebody is looking to have fun, which is the carnal person, if they're looking for companionship, which is the communal person, or if they're looking to get married, which is the committal person, that's important. That's the first thing off the bat, because everything else we'll also have to deal with. But if you guys are not on the same page, from the jump, like they want to have fun and you want to get married, or they want to get married and you want to have fun, or they just want somebody to hang out with and you want to get married, we're not on the same page. And so the ability to weed that out quickly is actually something that has been very helpful. I've had people come back and tell me, one person told me that she used the tool and she found her soulmate. Another came back and told me that she's getting married. I'm like, really? 5-minute dating did all of that? But you have to be willing to ask hard questions. And everything from, well, what do you want from a relationship, to do you see yourself in a relationship with me? That's a hard question. What is your family dynamic? Because at the end of the day, we have to there's a whole lot of questions that people don't want to ask. Then they end up in relationships based on assumption. And then they wonder why at the end of that 6 to 9 months period that they didn't want to ask any hard questions, why they're not being fulfilled, and why they're unhappy, and why they're sitting in a coaching session with Stephan getting sliced and diced. Because you didn't listen to Coach Steph and use 5-minute dating and begin to weed people out. So that's what it's about. It's really about asking hard questions based on what you want and not being afraid to stand up for yourself, because people don't do it, and I feel like I'm rambling, but people don't do this. They don't stand up for themselves when they're on the verge of a relationship. They stand up for the relationship. You stand up for yourself. Because at the end of the day, if they're not the one, they're not going to be the one on Thursday. They won't be the one Thursday 6 months from now. So we have to learn to stand up for ourselves and not stand up for the relationship that we really don't even have yet.
Stephan, what did you have to say?
To add on that, I mean, like Stephanie said, you really have to know who you are first and foremost. But I'm a firm believer that you cannot create a connection. It's either there or it's not. You can nurture it, you can run from it, but you can't just make it out of nowhere. You can build chemistry with somebody, but not a connection. And with that said, in order to help the process easier of finding someone you truly connect with, you just have to be you, first and foremost. There's so many people who are trying to be someone else, trying to fit a mold they think will attract more men or attract more women that doesn't fall in line with who they truly are, and that's why when they end up with this person, there is no true connection because there was no genuine foundation to begin with. Then secondly, if you want to meet someone who genuinely connects with you, just do things that make you happy. I recently told a woman, hey, you want to meet more men? Go places where you're actually happy. Because when you're happy, you exude positive energy. That positive energy is going to attract other positive energy. But if you're going to a sports bar that you don't even like being at to try to meet a man, your energy is going to be off because you're not comfortable there. You don't really want to be there. You're just doing it as a formality to meet men. That's not the best approach if you want to meet the person you actually connect with. So I think knowing yourself, loving yourself, doing things that you actually enjoy, and understanding you cannot, like Steph kind of ended with, you can't force the issue. If they're not the one, they're not the one. You can't turn them into the one, you know? So embrace that and understand that once you recognize they're not, keep it moving. Because the longer you hold on to the man who's not for you, the longer you will not receive the man who is for you. Or woman.
Church.
We do have another caller.
Can I snap my fingers?
We have another caller.
Okay, caller, we've got about 5 minutes left, so you can be very concise. Go for it.
The last four digits are 2916.
Okay.
You're on the air?
Yes. My question was, how do you know if someone is interested if you've been friends for a long time?
Friend stuff. All right.
Well, Stephanie, we got 4 minutes. So give an answer, and if caller, if you want to go over to Facebook, we can give you a little bit more. Okay.
Okay.
So somebody wants to address that.
I have a really short one, and you know, Stephan may disagree, but I'm just going to say this really earth-shattering answer to her question. I am. I'm about to give the earth-shattering answer to her question. If you want to know if somebody likes you and you've been friends for a while, ask them.
Oh, okay, yeah, there we go. We're on the same page. You have me worried.
Now, I'm giving Well, caller, that was good. You don't even need therapy or additional coaching session for that one. Just ask them and you'll know for sure.
But let me just throw in, the reason why it's important to ask them is because I've seen in a lot of friendship situations where both individuals are just scared to say something. I actually had one situation where a woman emailed me. She was in love with her best friend. It turned out he was in love with her too, but he got married 2 weeks before they finally confessed to each other. And they felt they were soulmates. So a lot of times there is interest, but people are so terrified to say something. So you're better off just asking, making it clear, finding out for sure, and then taking it from there. Because
I got a quick question on that. But if that person doesn't feel the same way, will it ruin the friendship?
Only if you're not prepared to accept that as a possibility.
Okay.
Yeah, that, and as well as how they choose to handle it. Some people may get uncomfortable, but guess what? If you don't say nothing, you may still ruin the friendship because you're going to be walking on eggshells. You're feeling some kind of way about them, but you're not opening up about it. When we hold things in, it starts to manifest into negative energy. That's not what you want. So it's either going to affect the friendship or it's going to affect your life. One way or another, this ain't going to turn out good if you don't say anything. So your best chance of it working all out in the end or you at least getting it off your chest is to talk about it.
Absolutely.
Oh. Well, I tell you what, we've got about 2 minutes left, and I just thank you both for being on the show. If you can give one piece of advice very quickly, both of you, to the listeners out there, what would you tell them?
Okay, real quickly. for me, it's all about love and life, and so you've got to make a commitment to get the love and life that you deserve. Stop settling, and if it takes time, then it takes time. But just be willing to make that commitment, and I guarantee you, it will definitely pay off.
And Stephan?
My thing is healing. Make sure you address your past issues. Stop walking around holding on to negative energy or acting like you don't have issues. We all have or have had issues. None of us is immune to it. So address them if you truly want to get what you deserve out of life and out of your relationships.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on, or having us on.
You have just listened to the Enough Factor podcast with your host, Suzette Vernon. To get notified of new episodes or to dig deeper into today's topic, become a subscriber. And while you're at it, tell us how we're doing and what topics you're interested in. We appreciate your feedback and your reviews. Until next time, remember, you are worthy, you are worth it, you are enough.